Weekend. A lot of you were covering other things, but it was fun watching all the games, and it's really crazy that when you see a Georgia Southern upset Nebraska, and then they get beat by UAB. And then you see a Marshall upset Notre Dame, and they get beat by Bowling Green. And you see an App State upset Texas A&M, and they had to have a miracle to survive with Troy at home. So more than ever before, I'm seeing that one game doesn't seem to carry over to the next, and that it's hard for young people to get ready to play each week. And the teams that play the best are going to be the ones that do that. They've got to be player-led teams, and you've got to separate game for game and just get ready to play the next week and move forward. We didn't play as well offensively at Georgia State as we had. We scored 35 points, but lost 3 turnovers and didn't make a 4th and 2. And I saw it during practice. I felt it during the week that they were so full of themselves that they were moving the ball and scoring points that we didn't practice as well. And defensively, we didn't play well in the 4th quarter at App State, so they practiced really, really well and therefore played better at Georgia State. So that's something that I don't know if it's a transfer portal. And so many teams, everybody's got a quarterback now because you can find one. In many cases, people didn't have them. Now, just if you sit and watch TV games, well, he's a transfer from here, and he's a transfer from here, and that's just what's happening in college football. And the other thing is it absolutely matters that a lot of the teams that don't have a lot of guys go to the pros now have so many 5th, 6th, and even some 7-year players. So you got 24-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds, and it's different. So I think we're seeing more upsets because of that. We're seeing everybody, maybe the top 8 is separated by talent. Everybody else seems to be about alike. And you're seeing so many close games. It's getting more like the NFL. And each week you're coming down to saying, I can't believe this game's so close. And that's why coaching matters. Guys have to do little things right. It's become a game of inches more than ever before. And it makes it fun, it makes it challenging, but also it's we're not shocked at anything anymore. You better get ready to play every week. Eastern Michigan goes to Arizona State and wins. I mean, Arizona just barely beats North Dakota State. I mean, it's every week. It's just amazing to me. I put up the scores yesterday for the guys and said, why can't we play hard every week? What is in the DNA of the teams that, and most of the ones that do are the ones that have so much depth that they're fresh. But that's just where we are in college football. Very proud of the 2 road wins. It's interesting that we talk so much about something when it's not good. Nobody says anything about the 2 wins. When you've won 2, you're undefeated on the road. That's not as near big a narrative as it was when you weren't. But I'm proud of the guys. They found ways to win 2 games that were tough games to win, and like I said, I felt like both games we could have at some point taken over and had a really big score, and we didn't. And we've got to finish games better. We've got to take momentum and opportunities during games, and doing that. We had an opportunity at 21-3 at Georgia State to expand that score, and we didn't. And then with the 3 turnovers the second half, let them stay in the game. Same thing at App State. We're up by 20 with 11 minutes left to go. Finish. Put your foot on the gas and make a stop. Play as a team and do the things you need to do to get where you want to go. So happy to be 3-0, but lots of things that we can still grow up and improve. Even though it's a week later, the 3 tight ends are playing really well. They were the players of the game offensively at Georgia State, and they've helped us so much. And all 3 of them are getting equal opportunities, so we're really strong at that position. Sid Gray played an outstanding game at Georgia State, best he's played in my opinion since he's been here. And Miles Murphy busted through the protection with their field goal and got his long arm up and blocked the field goal right after we went for the 4th and 2 and didn't make it. So that was a huge play during the ball game. So very excited about him. As I just stated, I didn't think the offense played as well, but you got a chance to be good on offense when you don't play well and score 35 points. That's just so we've got skill. But we need to run the ball more consistently. Omarion Hampton had 6 carries for 8 yards with a minute left in the third quarter and ends up with over 100. We got to run the ball in the first half. And I know the better teams run the ball better in the fourth quarter, but we can't come up second and long. We've got to do a better job on our first downs and just be more consistent with our running game. And I am impressed with the offense so far that we are scoring touchdowns in the red zone. We've scored a touchdown every time except the one time we had the young ones in there against Florida A&M and pretty much just took a knee and shut it down. But other than that, we're 10 for 10 with touchdowns in the red zone. Last year against Notre Dame, we were down by 4 points going into the fourth quarter, but we were 1 for 4 in touchdowns in the red zone. So we've got to continue to score touchdowns. We can't be kicking field goals, and proud of that narrative so far. And that was a huge point of emphasis coming in. Defensively, we've got to do a better job stopping them on first down so we can get more turnovers. We're still not doing as well on early downs, and that's where you force your turnovers. We're still not doing as good a job on defense with red zone touchdowns as I would like, but we did have a shutout last weekend, and the offense put the defense in really tough spots, especially fumbling at the 40 in the fourth quarter when the game was on the line, and the defense stepped up and actually made them punt. So I'm proud of the progress that we're making on defense, that we still have a lot of work that we can do. Open date, we focused on just little things. We practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Mostly we wanted to get well because we've got a lot of guys that are banged up, but it also gives us an extra 3 days to work on Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got the same offensive coordinator as last year, but Al Golden's the defensive coordinator, so they changed and are running different things on defense. So it gave us a little bit more time to work on the running game and minimizing pressure on the quarterback. Drake's playing really, really well, but he's still having to leave the pocket too much, and we've got to do a better job protecting him. Defensively, as I said, we want to force more turnovers and do a better job in the red zone, do a better job on first down defense. But we do feel like we're paying a lot of guys there. We are communicating better in the secondary, but we still had some miscommunication at Georgia State and gave up 2 touchdowns because of that. So excited that every day that we get a chance to work with the new coaches on defense and the players, that they are starting to improve in a lot of areas. Don Chapman will remain on the team. He never left the team, but he did not travel to Georgia State. And with the information that we've gathered over 2 weeks, we feel like that he should stay on the team, and he will play this weekend. If some other information comes up, obviously, that is different than what we've learned, then we would look at it closely and see if that changed the narrative. Excited about this weekend. Great crowd with Notre Dame coming in. They're a national brand. They're an outstanding team. They had a big win against Cal on Saturday. So it should be a great weekend and a lot of fun. We've been in a position the last 2 years. We were down by 7 here 2 years ago, and they ended up scoring with about 5 minutes left to beat us by 14. We didn't make a first down in the second half. We've been really good around here offensively. They completely shut us down better than anybody that we've played since we've been here. And then last year we were down by 4 with a chance to win, and they broke a 91-yard run, which you just can't have happen. We had a 4th and 3 where we stopped them, get off the field, but we have a face mask on the other side of the field with a different player. So we've got to be tougher, be more confident in the fourth quarter, and we've got to finish stronger to give us a chance to win, because those are things that we haven't been able to do. And they're very, very physical in both lines of scrimmage. And this will be a great test for us to see if we can handle this. Questions?
Coach, last time the UNC team started 4-0 was in 1997. Does this team feel like you guys can do that and go beyond that? What makes this team so special?
This team is a confident team that sees that they haven't played consistently well all the time. They're smart kids and they know it, and they sit there and they say, man, this could be cool if we'll just pick it up. The biggest thing that I felt like is that I told them yesterday, I said, how many of you guys were here when Carolina's team won 3? How many were here when Carolina won 2? That was 3 years ago. So don't take this stuff for granted now. Winning's hard. So, and they laughed and said, I hadn't thought about that. I said, last year's team was 2-2 after 4 games. So let's understand that you've got a chance to do something special here. We've just got to keep working and getting better in every phase.
Mack, how beneficial was the open week in terms of those defensive coaches you already mentioned, having some extra time to work with those guys on the communication and also meshing everything together?
Yeah, it's a great point because I should have said this, but we went back and reevaluated everything we're doing, both sides of the ball, because we've changed so much on offense. We gave a self-scouting report and a self-evaluation of all 3 phases. And it was really healthy. And we had some other people do it that weren't just sitting in the staff rooms all the time to be very critical of, you're doing this well, you're not doing this well, and you need to fix this. So I do feel like that the way our season is set up with 3 games and then an open date, then 4 games, then an open date, with all the new that we have, a lot of young guys on offense, new coaches on defense, that we have a great opportunity here to reevaluate who we are 2 or 3 different times during the season. So I think that'll really help us.
Mack, it'll be almost a month since your last home game this Saturday. Does it feel like it's been that long, or has the season kind of flown by for y'all?
Seems like it's been 6 months since the last home game. We haven't been here in so long, and the crowd for Florida A&M was fantastic, and it was just a wonderful weekend. I expect this one to be the same. Virginia Tech's already sold out for next weekend, so it's a fun time for Carolina football. Fun challenge ahead this weekend.
And with 2 bye weeks this season, is that something you would like to explore being standardized in college football maybe in the future, even if you don't play in week 0?
I do think that there's a good bad with open dates. Bye weeks, you have a chance to get healthy, which is and reevaluate yourself, which is such a positive. It does extend the season another week for the players. So you have to be smart in what you do and how you handle it, especially nowadays, because there are more people hurt during that week than any other time except preseason. So you can't be stupid and go out there and just hit them all week. So if you'll use it properly, let them get some rest and still get some work done so you don't take a step back, then I think it's a very healthy thing.
Is there a fine line with trying to get the communication in secondary fixed, or is it maybe a bigger, longer problem that might take longer until you get straightened out?
It's a great question, Andrew, and we're trying to figure it out ourselves. I think you've had 3 years of a system being taught, and all of these kids that are back there basically been playing in those 3 years, or large majority of them, and now you're reteaching. So we've just got to continue to get better and working hard at it, and it shouldn't be that hard. If you, again, looking at college football across the country, a lot of people aren't playing good defense. There's a lot of points being scored, and there's so many different rules that are better for the offense. There's so many situations where there's so many formations, they're going so fast that it's hard to get defenses called. Defense across the country has to start catching up with offense. And I do think the rules, you can't block below the waist, and defensive holdings and automatic first down, I think the rules committee even sees that, and they're trying to help defenses a little bit better, because, man, it's just, there are a lot of things you can do on offense that you can't do on defense.
Could you gauge some progress in that area during the open week, or do you really just kind of have to wait to see them in a game?
I think you have to wait. I saw progress this spring, and then we go out and had a fourth quarter that was just unbelievable. I'm sitting there watching Syracuse and Purdue this weekend. Purdue had 7 penalties in 51 seconds. And they took 6 of them. I really think each day is separate, each play is separate, and our guys just have to do the best they can do, and then if somebody hits a big play on you, go back to work. That's what you can do. But Charlton and Gene are working with the other 3 so much in that area because we got to cover better, we got to have better communication, and you're in a position where it's hard to disguise as much when you're not communicating as well as you need to be and you're not covering as well as you need to be. Then you've got to line up play, and that hurts you because you need the quarterback having to try to figure out what the defense is in, and we're not at that point yet.
You guys got 70 votes in the last AP poll. Is there some, being on that line of being in and not, is there some kind of mental confidence, some kind of mental switch for you or the players that when you're not in versus when you are in, does it do something for the team?
Yeah, what I've told the team, and I really believe this, is polls do not matter until the college football playoff poll comes out. All the stuff we talk about in preseason, we have no clue what we're talking about when we're saying this team's ranked number 6. Just like us last year, we weren't the 8th best team in the country, but we were for a month till we played. So I don't talk about or even look at polls until college football comes out in the middle of October or later part of October, somewhere in there. That's when we have enough valid information to start picking teams. We're just picking them now for fun. Like I said, when I worked with ESPN, they were asking us after the national championship game, pick your 4 teams for next year that are going to play for the national championship. I'm saying, I don't have a clue, man. Just pick 4. Just pick 4. Just do that. You need to put it out there. So let's make sure that there's valid reasons that we're picking teams before we start picking them.
You said you had some other people in the rooms that aren't typically there when you were doing the reevaluation process. Who were those people, and kind of what was the response from players, maybe just getting a different voice?
Yeah, it's people in the building. They're always around, but it wasn't just the coordinators. And then they would sit and study it with them.
Mack, I'm fishing here, but do you have any background with Marcus Freeman? Have y'all passed across it all?
No, I really don't. I've admired him, and they did such a tremendous job at Cincinnati before he went to Notre Dame, and he's got a great future ahead of him. But I don't know him really well. I spoke to him before the game last year. I've known Brian Kelly forever, and we coached together in some all-star games. But I do not know Marcus very well. But everything I've heard has been first class.
How important or valuable is it to get Notre Dame on the schedule without you guys really having to schedule that game? Obviously, a home game, I think it's sold out already. Without having to try to schedule these big non-conference games, to have one on the schedule.
You love to play a national brand. It helps your program, and it obviously is fun for our fans to go to Notre Dame or have them come here. And we're one of the 3 ACC teams that have played them 3 years in a row now. That doesn't happen very often. So we were very, very fortunate, even with the COVID year, that we got them on the schedule. But I'd love to play Notre Dame every year.
Was there being a chance to get Josh Downs and Caleb Hood coming back? You add in the possibility of getting Antoine Green from that injury he had before the season. What would that do for Drake May, being able to have all these guys back and this offense getting even more explosive?
Yeah, we will have to look at them during the week and make sure they have to get hit. They have to be able to practice and stay healthy. And how many plays can they play when they've been out so long? So it's confusing. There's a lot of things that you have to put together this week. The other thing is, since you're playing well, how do you get the number of plays properly for the guys that have been doing well? You just don't throw them out to let some other guys come back in. So we've got some work to do. Number 1, will they be healthy? Number 2, can they get hit in practice and stay healthy during the week? And number 3, how do you get your rotation that will be different now since you're averaging a bunch of points?
Can they, those type of players at caliber, let's say they only get those minimal plays into the game, can they still make a huge impact on those minimal plays versus having a large aspect of playing time?
You know, Josh is the best player on our team. and we haven't had him since the first game, and I don't think there's any question he's the best player on the team. And Antoine Green's an NFL receiver. So to lose those two plus British Brooks, we took a shot there early, and I'm really, really proud that the coaches didn't make excuses and the players didn't make excuses, and we recruited well enough that other young people just stepped up. And so that we've got, it's a huge part of coaching now, is taking these evaluations after 3 weeks, fixing some things and not being sensitive about them. Really, self-evaluation's hard for all of us. But I know I'm harder on myself than anybody else, and I'm really challenging our coaches to do the same. You get sensitive when media or fans say they're questioning what you're doing. Why don't you question it? You be questioning more than they do about things that need to be fixed. And then we can make progress and be better. But the other part of this is that the guys that are injured have to be honest with us, and they have to tell us before we put them back out there that I'm ready. Man, I'm ready to go. So it's a sensitive thing, hitting someone who's been injured when you're trying to get them back on the field before they go play, because you have to hit them, but you want to keep them healthy. Gets a little complicated.
Mack, how do you address, just with your guys, with the team, sort of the struggles Notre Dame has had to get the year started? I mean, probably didn't expect them to be 1-2. They're on their backup quarterback. Just, how do you broach that with them? How do you talk about that with them?
What I'll talk to them about tomorrow briefly is that they played Ohio State, who may be the best team in the country. So watch that video, and it was a great game till the end. And don't take that for granted. And then, I don't think there's any question, they would tell you they weren't as excited about Marshall. And when we stand around, you can get beat. And it was close and it was tight, but you can't let a team like Marshall hang in there until the end, because then they get excited and the pressure gets back on you. And then with a new quarterback, they beat Cal on Saturday. So they're really a team in my mind that's 1-1 and played one of the best teams in the country in Ohio State. And there was a learning process with that second game. So I think it's the same old Notre Dame. They're going to run the ball, be physical, and not make many mistakes. And they're really strong in both lines of scrimmage, and the quarterback played much better the second half. And he's a guy that we have known in the past that's very talented. But you're going to have to play a great game to beat Notre Dame.
I know you spelled out your scheduling philosophy. Have you thought at all about how the playoff and maybe an automatic berth for the ACC would change that philosophy at all?
I haven't thought enough about it. The one thing I don't like about what we're doing with college football right now is there's just some decisions being made without having all the information available. I thought the transfer portal, we're trying to fix things 3 years later. The NIL, we got no clue. We're trying to fix some things there, and we really don't know what to fix. We know our problems, but we don't have an answer, is what I can tell. And we all know we need one. And we all know that there's something that can be done, but then you get into all the political ramifications, the legal ramifications. You want players to get money, but you want there to be guidelines so it doesn't get an imbalance in recruiting for college football and ruin our game. And now here we are with playoffs the same. Some think it should be the conference champion. Some think that you can play better out of conference games if there's a 12-team playoff, because you won't get knocked out by losing one game. And we have a sport where 120 guys are on your team basically, and 11 get to play at a time. So I told the guys the other day that it was so amazing. The sport of college football is so amazing because we've got 120 guys in this room, not counting staff, and all of you are from different backgrounds. Different races, different religions, different economic backgrounds, different parents. Some have no parents, some have one, some have a grandparent that raised you. And we all have to get together and be a family. And then I said, and let's say that we play a third of you during a game of the 120, 2/3 of you don't even get to play. So trying to keep morale with a group where 2/3 don't get to play that are all different is even crazier. So what college football coaches and kids do and staffs, to me, are absolutely amazing to put all this together and give us the enjoyment of watching on Saturday. It really amazes me that it works. And it works across the country. And the ones that have the best players have the best teams, and the ones that have the best players have the most depth, and they all are happier. So it all works. But I think the biggest thing for me with the playoff will be making sure that we take care of the players and the parents. Because we're going to ask them to be out there longer. Football's a dangerous sport. We're going to ask them to play more. So we're paying them for NIL. What happens now with playoffs? Are you going to pay 12 teams? What happens to the bowl games? Do some get incorporated into the 12-team playoff? And then what happens to the others? And people are saying now, well, bowl games aren't important anymore. Well, they are to the teams that can't get in the playoff. Say, well, some kids opt out of the bowl games. That's their right. That's their choice. And if you're going to pay for the playoffs, are you going to start paying kids to play in bowl games? So I still think we've got a lot of things that need to be answered. Does the conference champion get to go? Does he have to be rated at a certain point? Do you still play 12 games? What happens to FCS? Do they need money? So do they still play? Does Western Carolina still play Carolina? What happens there? What happens to Group of 5? Does Group of 5, do they have their own playoff at some point? Or do they sit and, you have to be the highest rated team in the Group of 5, but does that team have to be rated in the top 12 to get to come? So there's so many questions that I don't have answered, that I would have liked to have had those answered before we started just making decisions again. But that seems to be what we're doing is we're making decisions and we're fixing them.
Mack, on the defensive side of the ball, you obviously haven't played a game against Georgia State, but what did you want to see out of them maybe last week just during the bye, turning the corner into this week, and what have you seen? Did what you want to see match up with what you have seen?
Yes, Adam, I was surprised that we haven't played more consistent. We're more of a base defense now than we were the last 3 years. And in some cases, we've gone back and looked at every play and every explosive. And sometimes we're just in the wrong gap. I mean, a defensive lineman dominates the offensive lineman, but he knocks him so far back and he sticks his head on the wrong side and there's a 20-yard run. So same with the linebackers. So we've really challenged the guys to get where you're supposed to be. That's the discipline part of football. And our secondary problems have been obvious. So we've got to continue to get better there. Cam Kelly is playing the best he's played. I thought Tony Grimes played well at Georgia State. He had one bad play, I think, that gave up a big one. But and some of it's eyes, some of it's the fact that we're jumping things instead of staying with patience and confidence where we should. And we've been very inconsistent on defense. So that's for us to get where we need to go. We've got to get better in that area. What we wanted to see at Georgia State was confidence, getting off the field. We wanted to see them playing well in sudden change situations. So when we fumbled the ball at the 40, that was a great opportunity to see what we were going to do. And they made them punt. And it was with confidence and looked like a really good defense. During that second and third quarter at App State, who's got a good offense, they played really well. They played great defense. So it's there. We've just got to do it consistently. And that's a hard one. All I've told them is you got to practice consistently to play consistently. And that's the only thing I know that we can do different. And then we didn't do much on defense the first 3 weeks. So Gene can talk to you about it, but we'll start doing more. But he has really been trying to get us just fundamentally sound and making sure that we're getting in the right places, and then you can add from there.
The offense, when you're making more changes to the offense and as players continue to come back from injury, what is the message to the guys who have been succeeding all year long that's saying, hey, you're losing some plays to a guy that should be an NFL receiver. How do you keep him motivated?
Yeah, what we do is say, we're going to do what it takes to win. So, period. If Josh Downs is healthy, he's going to play, and we're going to try to get him the ball. 100%. And if you get as good as he does, you'll do the same. But we've told the guys it was like the room of 120. There's some talented guys in here who are working really hard, who aren't getting to play very much yet. Be patient, wait for your chance. Who thought British Brooks was going to go down? Who thought Antoine Green was going to go down? And it sounds like a cliche, but the statement of next man up is really true in college football more than any, because football players get hurt more than a lot of other sports. Ross?
Yeah, is there an update on Ja'Cory Conley's status or timeline? I know we haven't really talked about him. Ja'Cory Conley, on his timeline.
It's a good question. Yeah, his earliest date was supposed to be this week, and he's not going to play. Because I asked the same question last Tuesday, and I think he's close, he's getting better, but he has not practiced one day with us. So I would think, Ross, they'll work him back in to practice, so I'm not sure, but Luke could tell us. He's doing well, but I think maybe his 9 months was this week, and that's supposed to be the minimum time that you can have for his operation. So, but we can get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to hear it too. Maybe he'll tell you more than he told me. He just said, no, he's not ready to play. So, anything else?
I got one more. Coach,
Yes.
There's so many teams in North Carolina being so good this year. You got Wake who's undefeated. You got you guys who are undefeated. Duke's undefeated. NC State's undefeated. App State's having a fantastic year. How do you kind of convince recruits one way or another? How do you kind of woo them when everyone in the state is outperforming everyone else?
I think it's a long season. Everybody better wait and hang on, just watch. We're all walking around feeling good about ourselves, but you got to play every week. And it can turn fast. It's also funny that every coach that lost Saturday, their fan base wants them fired now. I mean, every one of them. It's changed so much from when I started and when it's out there. So it's different names, but the same comments everywhere you go. He should be fired, man. This is awful. It means you have to fire half of them every week. So that's hard, but good for the state. East Carolina's lost one game, like App, and it was a tight game, like App with us. So it's great for our high school coaches and our high school players to see the teams having success in the state, and hopefully that'll encourage players to want to stay in the state and play.
What did you do on Saturday? Did you watch college football all day, or did you get away from it?
No, I sat and I flipped channels, and I got every week I get the games that we're going to play against, and I mark them, what channels they're on, and I sit and watch every one of them, and I make notes during the game. That's just what I do. So I started at 11 o'clock with Wofford and Virginia Tech, and I finished at midnight.